Prince Siddhartha became disillusioned with the fleeting luxuries of palace life. He left home to find a cure for inevitable suffering caused by old age, sickness, and death. He sought guidance from various religious masters, including one who taught his students to practice extreme self-denial, such as eating only a spoonful of gruel each day. Following this method, he wasted away until he was skin and bones, but he got no closer to resolving the problem of suffering. It was at just this time that a young woman came by with some milk porridge, which she offered to the skeletal Siddhartha. This meal gave him the energy he needed to resolve the problem of suffering once and for all. He realized that no external teacher could give him the answers he sought, and he would have to solve this problem on his own. His body nourished, he decided to meditate under the sacred fig tree until he reached enlightenment, deepening his insights into the true nature of existence. And then, on the 8th day of the 12th month, Siddhartha attained complete awakening to become the Buddha.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Patrick Westcott, and I'm on the Board of Trustees here at Minnesota Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We're here on this beautiful morning. We've heard some beautiful music. And today is being celebrated as Boki Day by many Western and Japanese Buddhists and commemorates the day of the historical Buddha, Siddhartha, who experienced enlightenment. While we don't expect anyone to achieve total enlightenment this morning, we do hope that you will find your spirit today. If it is beautiful music that your soul is longing for, classical trio, Come Arise, provided it here today, and will provide some more music for us. And that winter sequence is just lovely. If you need to feel more centered, we have a wonderful guest speaker today, Steve Hagen, who will speak to us about the path that will lead us to hopefully a more present being. And if it's community that you're seeking, we are all here for you in times of joy and times of struggle. For any folks who may be arriving for the first time today or are early in your journey with us, we invite you to fill out the visitor form at the welcome table. and to take that bright green folder home with you so you can read more about us. Those of you who are on YouTube today or on Zoom, you will find the link for the visitor form in the chat. We also invite any visitors who are with us today and any guests to join us downstairs for our social hour, which will follow the service. The orange team is serving as the hospitality host today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm the minister here. I wanted to also point out Richard's on tech today, and Nicole Collins, our director of music ministries, is also present with us this morning. So we have a crew here helping run everything this morning. A couple of announcements before we continue. After the service today, if you are a new person to Minnesota Valley or you're new in your journey with us, there'll be a meeting in the fireside room. It's called Starting Point. Folks gather and share a little bit of their stories of who they are and their journey, spiritual journey to get here. Again, if you're new in your journey and you haven't attended one of those meetings, we'd love to get to know you better there. Also, after the service today, I believe the Children, Youth, and Family Council is meeting. I know that sounds like a big, important thing, council, but really it's just for folks who are interested in helping with the Children, Youth, and Family programming in any way. If you have ideas or feedback, I'm sure they'd love to see you there. I want to point out that later this week on Wednesday, Steve Vincent, who's here, will be here at 5:30 leading meditation. So please join us for that if you need a little mid-week reprieve. But maybe you need to get in the zone. What am I talking about? I'm talking about second Thursday, next Thursday at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Guest speaker there will be Nick Johnson. He's the planning and supervisor for the planning division of the city of Bloomington. He's here to talk about all things zoning. See what I did there? Get in the zone. Now, if you're new in your journey and you haven't become a member yet and you're ready to become a member, but maybe you already went to a starting point, we're having New Member Sunday next week to celebrate our new members, which I'm very excited about. And if you haven't had a chance to fill out that paperwork, I will be in the youth room right after the service. Come join me for coffee and we can get your paperwork filled out if you need to get that done. And that's a reminder for you all to come next week because we're having New Member Sunday next week. And I think there's something else going on next week too, and Alexander and Candace will tell us about that.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. This is my first time up here and not over there singing, and this is way more terrifying. So, Candace, you're reading such an interesting book. Where did you get it?
Oh, well, didn't you know at the Holiday Bazaar this year, there's a book fair?
There is?
Yes.
There's a book fair at the Holiday Bazaar this year, everybody. So come to the bazaar and visit the book fair. So the bazaar is next Saturday, right after the service. Sunday, right after the service. Thank you, Laura. I didn't rehearse this. If you have something that you want in the bazaar, you need to drop it off between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Saturday the 14th. And we also need volunteers to help set up on Saturday and help run the bazaar on Sunday. So Candace and I will be at a sign-up table downstairs after the service, along with some white chocolate macadamia nut cookies for anyone who wants to sign up.
I made them this morning.
All the tables are rented downstairs, so we will have many vendors selling some amazing things, do some Christmas shopping maybe, or holiday shopping. Hope to see you all there and downstairs at the sign-up table. Yes, question?
Are we allowed to ask questions now?
Sure. What's your question?
The books, are they donations from us? Do they
No.
need to be new? Are they only the UUA books?
Well, we haven't set up to take books from other people and price them, so we're just selling books from the UUA bookstore. But that's a great idea if somebody wants to lead that portion next year.
Are you looking at me for any reason?
No, I just,
Not in particular.
All right. Laura will be sending out a reminder email to everybody who has signed up to volunteer or who signs up today to volunteer. And yeah, hope to see you all there.
I am making pistachio thumbprints with apricot jam and a white chocolate drizzle for the bazaar. But for today, oh, I did make something for you all today, though. Because it's Bodhi Day, and you know me, I'm a former chef, I'm always looking for an excuse to make something to celebrate food and culture. So I did make the rice pudding that I talked about in the story. Because for me, that story is all about the rice pudding, more than the Enlightenment. Just because I'm so, my brain is so chefy. So, will you all please join me for the words for lighting our chalice this morning? Thousands of candles can be Thank you.
As we sing hymn number 188, please note that we'll sing it together in unison one time, and then we'll go into parts 1, 2, 3, and sing it 2 times. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Come, yet again come. Come, yet again come.
We do sometimes come with despair, though, and we come with joy, we come with concerns, we come with grief and sorrow, we come with things that we're celebrating. We like to set aside some time each week to lift up the things that we're holding in our hearts, which is so much, and to share it in this community, because we know that we get through the struggle better together, and we are able to share joy and bring that to other people when we share it. If you have something to share and you're here in person, you can raise your hand, and one of the ushers will come around with a microphone for you. If you're on Zoom, you can share in the chat.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Coate. Some of you know my husband, Paul. He is a professional singer and actor and teacher. His career was highly disrupted by the pandemic, of course, as a lot of people's were, and he's just been struggling the last 5 years to find his way back to a career path that he enjoys. So he's got a couple of really big interviews coming up this week, and some maybe hopefully soon. Yeah, so a couple big interviews, cross your fingers. It's going to be a lean Christmas for us this year, but, you know, good things on the horizon in 2025, we hope. Thank you.
I'm Kathy. Yesterday at First Saturday, we had Matthew Ayers. He is the director of Joyce Food Shelf. He was fabulous. We learned quite a bit about food shelves. And hunger in Minnesota is real. So please think of them this Christmas.
Hi, I'm Candace Ways. My dad is not doing well right now. He had a surgery that didn't go as planned this week. So yeah, if you could just keep us in your thoughts, keep him in your thoughts, send some good energy his way. I am going to go see him. They live in Pennsylvania, and Owen and Avery and I are going to go travel next weekend. So yeah, just keep him in your thoughts.
I'm Liv. My joy is that my foster cat got adopted on Monday. I'd had her since August, so it was a lot of applicants and trying to find the right fit, and I'm very excited that she finally landed in a good spot.
Hello, my name is Marge Lorraine, and I want to just update you about my partner who has been in assisted living for the last 6 weeks. And to tell you the truth, she's happy as a lark. She was a nurse for 40 years and she was a psych nurse for 30 years. So she's in the right place. Everyone loves her there. There's only 16 people where she lives, so it's very intimate and it's brand new. And so she's happy. I am actually quite miserable. I don't talk very much. I stay home. I'm depressed. I have been since she's been gone. So that's the truth.
Marge, are you open to having people call you to go out for coffee and help you with some of that loneliness? Okay. I wanted to mention last night we had kids' night, and there were 12 kids here. Yeah, it was a busy place. Most of them were under the age of 5. It was a great time. I want to thank Yamini and Candace and Alexander. Maria was there. Emily Clary also helped a little bit. I cooked dinner. It was great fun and a testament to our hard work that the social hall looks like it does this morning, because it looked like a tornado went through there by the time we were done. So thanks to everybody who helped get that clean up. And and the snowflakes are a result of that. The snowflakes on the back windows of the sanctuary. Candace put together a project for the kids to color watercolor coffee filters and then cut them out for snowflakes. So we have the kids to thank for some added winter decorations. Was there anything on Zoom this morning, Richard? No? All right. We hold that which has been spoken out loud, and we hold that which remains in the sanctuary of our hearts. We lift all of it up into this space because we know that we are better together. Will you all please join me in our sung response? We believe that sharing is an answer. This month, our Sunday sharing partner is Oasis for Youth, which is right down the road, located in Oak Grove Presbyterian Church. Oasis is a great place for teenagers and young adults who are experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness or the lack of stable housing. This month we're focusing a little bit on joy too, and even in times of struggle, there can be spaces of joy, and this is one of those spaces where kids can come together to be with other kids who are facing the same problems that they are, which helps, and to be with some adults that are caring for them and making sure that they're being looked after and have what they need. And Oasis counts heavily on partner organizations like us to fund their staff and to fund having that space, and also the outreach work that they do in the community and at the Mall of America. They have a space there where they do outreach work as well. The Buddha says that generosity brings happiness at every stage of its expression. We experience joy in forming the intention to be generous. We experience joy in the actual giving of something. We experience joy in remembering the fact that we have given. Will the ushers please come forward for the offering today? Our guest speaker, Steve Hagen, is the author of several books about Buddhism and life's big questions. He's also a founding teacher of Dharma Field in Minneapolis. He's been a student of Buddhist thought and practice since 1967. In 1975, he became a student of Dainin Katagiri Roshi in Minneapolis and was ordained by him in 1979. He studied with teachers in the US, Asia, and Europe, and received Dharma transmission from Katagiri Roshi in 1989. Please welcome our guest speaker this morning, Steve Hagen.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. It's nice to be here. I'm a little familiar with Unitarian churches. My oldest brother was a Unitarian, and I've spoken several times at Unitarian churches before. So always found you to be a good group of people, interesting to talk to, very open and interested in many things. So it's good to be here. As a distinction between my other brother, he was a Lutheran minister, so I just have a lot of familiarity with churches, I think so. But I went a different way. Our poor mother, she probably couldn't figure out, especially when I came home. Anyway, but good to be here. The topic I was given for today was presence. I see on the schedule there, it's, no, I forget. Should have looked again. The practice of presence, yeah. Very well put. The teaching that I do and what I live out is generally a practice. We look at it that way. But this term presence is, and I've been studying and practicing Zen Buddhism now for over 50 years, and never really encountered this term, presence, so much. And so when I was asked to come and speak on this, I thought, well, I don't know if I have anything to say. And so I was contemplating maybe I should turn it down. On the other hand, I thought about it a little bit, and I realized, well, maybe the very fact that we don't use this term generally, it's like it never comes up, but I could say something about that, and it has to do with a very profound teaching of the Buddha, pardon me, who I think perhaps many of you may have heard of this teaching of anatta, the teaching of not self. And so this is coming from a very unusual perspective for most of us. In fact, most of the time when we encounter this teaching, and I first encountered it through my Unitarian brother. He was in college. He was quite a bit older than me. I was just a kid. But he first introduced me to Buddhist ideas, and which for me, I guess it kind of stuck. But, and he was intrigued by this and found it difficult to understand this teaching of not self. And I remember myself as probably an 8-year-old or so. I was also puzzled by that. And I've known over the course of my adult years when I started studying Buddhism, practicing it, this is pretty common among people. It's not easy to understand. But if we don't, as I said, we don't use this term presence, but if we did, well, let's put it this way, maybe the reason that we don't speak in those terms so much is because this is all present. There's no non-presence. It's only presence. And, but I'll say a little bit more about this anatta, this non-self, and all, or non-being, we could say. But again, it's quite difficult. It took me years of approaching this before I finally began to realize what this teaching was at its heart. But starting with how we normally maybe use this term or think of this term, presence kind of indicates being, or maybe it assumes being, or it assumes perhaps self, and then other as well. And but behind it is this assumption of, could say, thingness, that there's something there. Could be myself that is here, we would say. But again, there's non-presence, so that it's only here and now. That's, there isn't, we don't find presence in past or future. It's just here now. And so it becomes very singular in a way. So there's just presence, and we can't leave it. Though we think we do, when we speak of it then as, well, I am present, or I want to be present, well, what are we talking about? We want to have our mind here. We talk about presence of mind as well, that we can remain cool and rational under very trying circumstances or something like this. We bring our mind here. But that is our conscious mind, I often call it our grasping mind. The mind is holding something, or that can hold something, thoughts, ideas, but also objects of various kinds, including people who we probably don't want to think of people as objects, but it was something objective, something out there and separate and apart from me. We think in these terms. And then it seems like we can leave the immediate vicinity of where we are through our mind, where our mind wanders away. We're not really here. I'm a Zen practitioner, Zen teacher. Zen means meditation. This meditation that we do is just simply that, is to bring ourselves back to right here, right now, which of course we've never left. We never leave here and now. But in our minds, it seems like we can. And so maybe we want to make ourselves present, bring ourselves back. But we're always present. It is always here, but it could be present is this wandering mind that isn't engaged in the immediate surroundings that we find ourselves in, or something like this. And so the mind might seem like it's scattered or wandering about. But our practice then is just simply to notice this. And in that very noticing of this, we're already back right here. But we don't mark it as presence or something like that. I mean, we could, I suppose. But often we talk about presence in a way in our common everyday looking at this, or assuming that here I am in a world of others, in the world of things and comings and goings. We talk about, and we can attribute this quality of presence maybe to certain people, to some people, who when they say step into a room, just command the room. They have an imposing presence or something that they bring to whatever it might be. And we might talk in this way, but we also talk in a way of where we maybe enter a room and then we feel maybe a kind of presence in this room of some kind, and we feel that, maybe it's a room that we knew, a room we come back to, a place where we used to play with our friends when we were children. And we feel a certain kind of presence in this room when we come back to or say a room where maybe a friend died or something like this. And we can easily step into such a space, and we say that we feel a presence there in this space. And that's how we might commonly talk about this. But what's important from a Buddhist standpoint, or from a Zen perspective here, is that all the while, no matter how we view this or think of it or see it subjectively as myself, and I want to be present here in whatever's taking place, no matter how we view this, it is always mental. It is a mental activity, not a physical one. You thought, might think, well, yes, but if I'm present, and I'm talking about myself being physically present in this room or something like that. Yeah, we use the term in that way. But the teaching of the awakened is such that the awakened, people like Gautama, on this date, so many years ago, 2.5 millennia ago, he awoke to the real circumstance of life, the actual situation that we find ourselves in here. And so you can say that maybe he had gained some kind of presence here. But what we awaken to is that this is always presence. We are always here. It is always now. It is never then. It is never, somewhere off in the future or the past. We can't be present in such places as that. And we aren't. We never are. It is always here. If here involves a memory or or even just maybe a story of past events, maybe long before we were ever born, maybe, or times off in the future that, again, are not here. We can maybe think of presence then. We might project it in some way and think that, yes, but I was here, and at that time, or whatever it might be. But that is always mental. That is a thought. That is an idea. That's a memory. That is all taking place in mind space, we could say. Not in physical space. In physical space, there is only now. But even now, we actually don't, the foundations of this reality, of this very moment now, these two are not actually physical. Even though you say, well, physically I am here, you're here, and in this room, which is physical, material, surrounding us, that sort of thing. Yes, but if we look very carefully at actual, immediate, direct experience, it is always of mind. Today, there's a lot of people looking at consciousness, and they use the term consciousness quite a bit. And every experience we've ever had is a conscious experience, we would say. There's no such thing as a non-conscious experience. It is always conscious. So this is, again, I was saying we can use presence in this very same way. But the problem that we have, this is what the Buddha recognized, and this is where our suffering comes from. You've indicated that Buddha sat down under this tree to finally resolve this problem of suffering. And what exactly is that? Well, what he came to realize is that it isn't that it comes from, it is our very assumption of thingness, of being something, and of persisting through time as, say, myself, or this podium here, or the microphone, or any number of things that we see, or other people. We see it all in terms of being, in terms of time, in terms of persistence. And if you look very carefully, whenever we talk about existence, that I exist, this room exists, you exist. If you look very carefully, what do you mean in your mind by that term, existence? I think if you stayed with it a while, I don't expect you to just, oh yeah, I get it right now. But if you reflect on it and come back to this, and it might even take a few years, but come back to and look at what are you assuming here that's existing? What the Buddha realizes is that we don't have anything that is existing. Or if I change the word to persisting, then maybe you can kind of see where he's coming from there with that. But there is nothing within the experience that is persisting, including me, the subject, let alone all the objects of various kinds that we might find within this experience. It is all changing. It is all coming and going. There's no substantiality behind any of it. This term I'm using is substantiality. In Sanskrit, it's shunyata. It's a word that one of the great Buddhist teachers, Nagarjuna, used in pointing out that it is all, we translate it generally as emptiness, that it is all empty. And then often it gets translated as nothingness, something like that, which is not at all what the Buddha taught or what he said. This is why we don't talk about no self. Buddha never said no self. What he said was not self, meaning that anything you pick up, whether it's a physical thing of some sort, or a thought, or a feeling, an idea, an understanding, and if you ask yourself, when the Buddha asks you, is this self? And it isn't. And why isn't it? Because there isn't anything you can pick up or imagine or taste or feel or think that isn't demonstrating or exhibiting itself as changing. All is impermanent. All is shifting and changing to the degree that we don't even find impermanence. Why? Because there isn't anything within experience persisting long enough to be impermanent. This is the real meaning of what impermanence is. These are profound thoughts and pointings, we would say. There's nothing here for you to grip. I don't expect you to believe anything I'm saying. But what we do in the way the Buddha taught was just simply to point out these things for us and to notice what is actually taking place from moment to moment within experience. And with that, we don't really find things. We do find the appearance of things, the appearance of self, me, or you, and we live accordingly with that. But the idea that there's actually some substantial thing behind any of these terms that we can see doesn't show us any kind of substantiality there or any kind of persistence. Or again, as I was saying, if you look very carefully at that word, existence, we don't find that. Existence has to mean, and I'm sure it does in your mind, if you dig into it deep enough and look at it, stare at it long enough, you realize you're assuming persistence. We just simply don't find that. And so it is with this, then, waking up to this, that the Buddha found the path to the release from suffering. And basically, what that comes down to is the relinquishment of views, of ideas, beliefs, thinking that such and such is true. Truth, reality, doesn't go into a conceptual form. It doesn't go into an idea or a belief or anything of this sort. And to the extent that we allow ourselves to be captured by this sort of thing, this is the basis of suffering and in in human life. And this is what the Buddha pointed out. I was reluctant to speak on this point because I realized I couldn't talk about this word presence, I don't think, without getting into the deeper aspects of this teaching. And I hope it isn't too much. Normally I don't jump in front of even students who've been with me a while and point out things at this level of subtlety. So I hope I didn't scare you or or made this too difficult. And I hope I also didn't make it sound kind of crazy, because it can sound crazy. But the way we find this is not to take hold of an idea I may have given you. I don't mean to really give you any ideas here, but to have you just kind of notice something about your experience And what the Zen practice is, and Buddhist practice in general, that we all follow some form of meditation generally. But it is just simply to sit down, quiet the mind, and carefully observe what is actually being experienced from moment to moment. And we will realize that there is no permanence in any of this. This is why we're alive. This is what life is. It's this constant coming up for something new, fresh, now. But it's always now. In an instant, it's already, that's past. But we'll hang on to that as it goes. Maybe wanting to get it back, or getting back to some conditions that were working at the time when that happy moment was there. But we're ignoring where we actually are living out this reality, which is right now. And so those are views that we might hold about the past. Fear of the future, something, or maybe great hope for the future, whatever, which maybe can be fulfilled in some limited way, but it won't be the future we ever imagined. And but it's still something that isn't here. There's not too much you can do about that. To the extent you can do anything about that, you just take care of it in this moment. But in this moment, taking care of this moment is simply just being here without it making anything of it, and just attending to this moment as completely and fully as we can. Then we can live out our life not as ourselves, but as this whole unfolding of reality itself, because that's what's being lived out. It's not in the past, it's not in the future, it's not in the ideas we construct in our minds or in our hopes and dreams. It is just simply right here. And to the extent that we can let go of our views, drop our views, our understandings, our conceptual understandings of things, then the full understanding of what is actually being lived out, that's what's left. That's what the understanding then becomes. This is awakening, the awakening that the Buddha found. And with this comes not so much the end of suffering in the sense that you'll never stub your toe or lose a loved one or whatever. It's not that, but that it is knowing that to live completely out of this moment, we can take care of that. We're not forming ourselves into something that's being crushed by this moment or driven in some way by this moment. We can just live it out completely and fully. And the world itself in totality is at peace. It is very, very quiet, very settled, and we can learn to live in just this way. I don't know how long, there's a reflection on the clock, so I can't see how long I've been talking. But any questions about anything I've said? Yes. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of hearing you speak many times when I was at Dharma Field before that is. And I think one of the things that was so impactful to me, I don't know if can you speak a little bit briefly maybe of grasping and the story of the moon? Because I feel like that really ties into.
Are you talking about the story of the two moons?
Just noticing the moon.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I did. Yeah, there's a lot of moon stories, but I think maybe you mean, well, the Buddha pointed this out, that this teaching is like the moon. In fact, in Zen, the full moon is a metaphor for enlightenment. And so he offers teachings that point to the moon, point it out for us. It's like we could take our finger and point at the moon. And so the teaching, the Buddha likened his teaching to something like that he can't actually give us enlightenment. He can't give us the moon. And of course, in his day, we've never even the idea of getting to the moon, was totally, so it's like something that's quite visible, noticeable, and yet we can't really reach it in some physical kind of way or touch it. But we can see it. we can realize it and know it in a most complete way, not through an intellectual or a conceptual knowing, which is inadequate, but through a visceral, direct knowing, realizing it as something not separate from self. And that's why we don't find self separate from anything at all. It's really totality. And so that's what that teaching, what he's doing there. And he's saying that, you know, we'll point to the moon, but it's like pointing out the moon to a dog or a cat, you know, and they'll just come up and sniff your finger. So, you know, and they don't quite catch that, let's draw your attention toward that which we can't really grasp or touch, but we can see and realize. And so that's what's in that particular teaching. So Buddhism is not, there are Buddhists who believe certain things and that kind of, but and that might be, maybe that's Buddhism. But Buddha Dharma, which is what Western people gave Buddha Dharma the term Buddhism, but it's not really originally part of the term. It is simply Buddha Dharma, Buddha meaning, in the case applied to a human, an awakened one, a Buddha, but it's just enlightenment, and Dharma is teaching. And so the teaching of the awakened, those who fully awaken to the true nature of this reality that we're living out. That's what they say, what they teach is called Buddha Dharma. And where was I going with it? But that image I was using of, you know, pointing to the moon, and then that would be like Buddha Dharma. It doesn't give us something to grip. It doesn't give us something to believe, to take hold of this idea, well, this is true and that is not true. Or so. We never speak in these terms. People will hear it that way because we're used to putting everything into dualistic terms. And this is good and that is bad. And, you know, well, keep looking at it. Under different circumstances, this could change radically from this frozen way that we, you know, pick up the world and cage it up in our minds, and with various aspects, maybe fighting or dueling it out, you know, even within our own minds, let alone between other people and in the world. So, so this is this teaching then is not trying to tell us to think this or to think that, or believe this or believe that, or no, that one's wrong and this one's better. We just simply don't do this. It's just simply a matter of pointing out, just kind of pointing directly toward what is actually being experienced moment by moment. And it leaves it for each of us to see for you. You look at that, you examine it. That's what the Buddha said on his deathbed. He said, you know, you're given this teaching, he said, but this is for you to see for yourself, to see and know for yourself what is true and what is real. One thing you want to be looking for, though, in your own mind, again, this is all mental, it's always the mind. Look into your own mind and see if you're assuming something here, if you're holding something, particularly if you're thinking something is better than this other thing over here. Just keep looking at it. And these kinds of distinctions will begin to dissolve. Then if you want to reach some kind of, it would be compromise if they were truly separate. But you want to find a full completion of that so we can live in peace and harmony, because the whole does live in peace and harmony. It's our minds, in our own minds, we have to find that. But we cannot find that if we keep gripping views or beliefs or holding one thing separate from another. That inevitably is going to lead to conflict. And as soon as you see this, even within your own mind, don't fight that. That's what's coming up. But notice it and realize the implications of that and the bearing it might have on your behavior or your speech or any number of things, how you interact with others and that sort of thing. So this is not about gripping anything of any kind. It's about relinquishing views. That great teacher I mentioned, Nagarjuna, at the end of his great masterwork, the Mula Bhajamika Krika, he said in this final verse, he said, I bow to Gautama, the man, not the Buddha, Shakyamuni, but Gautama. the greatest of all teachers, he said, who taught us the relinquishment of views. And ultimately, that is what these enlightened teachings bring us to. Just see, notice what you're doing when you're hanging on to one idea or another. You're insisting on pushing this through or pushing that through. It doesn't mean to offer ideas, things like this, but don't own it too tightly. I don't know, I can't tell what time it is, but a little bit of time yet? Oh, I gotta, oh, I should just put an ending, okay. Well, thank you very much. It's been wonderful to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for giving us absolutely nothing to hang on to. Was that what, it worked, right? Okay, good. Will you all please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice? Here we go. We extinguish this flame.
Torino
Sinchi il ghiaccio si rompe e si disserra, senti uscire dalle ferrate a porte, si rompono via i tuoi resta il vento i tuoi
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Italian. Beautiful. Thank you so much. May you all be safe. May you all be happy. May you all be healthy. May you all live in peace no matter what you are given. May your heart be filled with love and kindness. Have a good week, everyone.